Let's talk about some of the tools we use when we go through this process.
Yeah. There's so the tools definitely vary from again what the scope is and what we're specifically trying to solve. So let's say a lot of our work is going to be on social media. There's a handful of tools that we'll use there. We'll go in and each of the social platforms have some of their native insights tools that you can go in and kind of see some of the metrics. We use another tool called Falcon IO or Brandwatch. They've changed names a couple of times, but we call it Falcon IO at Hodges, and that allows for a little bit more of a deeper dive into the some of the metrics and analytics for each of these platforms and kind of pulls it all together in one location. It also allows for a social listening feature, so you can kind of with certain keywords and queries you can kind of go through and see, how the internet at large is talking about, a particular topic or subject matter. So that can be very helpful. If it's more media oriented, there's, several monitoring tools like Critical Mention and Muckrack that we use. Those are not explicit endorsements of those two tools. So if there's any ad reps for other monitoring services, I'm sure yours is great. But please don't ask us to update this podcast just for a mention of your service. Sorry about that aside. Those can be great too at seeing what how much media coverage an organization is getting, and also how much media coverage their competitors are getting. Some of those also, can allow for looking into specific key messages or specific key phrases in association with their organization to kind of segment out some of that media analysis. From a primary research perspective, we love a good survey. Two of the main ones we use is Typeform and SurveyMonkey. Typeform's great. It's a little bit more, it's a little simpler in its user experience, which in our opinion at times can lead to higher completion rates among participants. SurveyMonkey is also really good because it allows for, in my mind at least, a little meatier analysis where you can kind of pull out subsets of the participant pool. So if you're asking like a demographic question on age, you can see specifically how like 18 to 25-year-olds, if you ask that question, answered all the subsequent questions versus just all participants. And so those are two great tools. And then what else am I forgetting? Oh, and just a good what we're doing here. A good
Yeah.
Zoom Teams for focus groups or one-on-one interviews. I think this is something that's changed a lot over the last few years as we've all gotten more comfortable with video conferencing. We used to do a lot of phone conversations when people would be either in different geographies or schedules just didn't allow for in-person meetings. But I always forget the percentage, but it's like something like 80% of all communications nonverbal. And with research in particular, it's so important to see somebody when you're talking to them to see how they, their facial expressions might change or how they might lean back or lean forward in response to a particular question. And so, we use video conferencing tools as well, which are very, very, very effective.
Yeah. I want to stay on that for a touch because I feel like, you're right.
Mhm.
Video conferencing or being able to see somebody when you're conducting these one-on-one interviews is so important, just as you said, because of those nonverbal cues. And it also really helps to engender trust between us and the
Yeah.
interview subject. I mean, a lot of times we're asking not difficult questions, but very pointed and probing questions. And, the people on the other end want to make sure that they are talking to an actual person that they can trust with this
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. No,
And it,
no, I mean, sometimes these projects are to deal with very sensitive, raw issues for organizations and
yeah,
different people within that organization. And, PR people don't always have the best reputation as being trustworthy or all of that. Or, people think that we're here just to kind of put a spin on something, which is not the case at all. And so that kind of face to face, or at least that having the visual aspect of these conversations is very, very important just to show as much as we can in our delivery of these questions, how much we care and how much we're truly there for, um, not primarily for the sake of the PR marketing department, but truly for the organization as a whole and those that they serve as well.
That's right. They want to know that we actually believe in their work and their goals and that we're
Yeah,
here to support them. So nothing
absolutely.
better than one-on-one conversations face to face, be it
Yeah.
albeit over the computer, but that's fine. So I think we're at our time. Do we have any more questions left? No, I think we've reached our time. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with our listeners before we part ways?
Um, I think one of the big things, and we've kind of touched a little bit on this throughout, is that, communications research doesn't have to be this big, scary, expensive thing. It can be as simple as routinely going in and just evaluating the insights that you have available to you. Again, if you're on social media, they all provide some degree of metrics for free on the platform, and so going through and seeing what type of posts were most got the most engagement or got the most reach over the last month, and what commonalities do those posts have, and how can we do more of that, and less of the posts that people aren't engaging with, and a lot of this stuff, for organizations that have bigger research needs or bigger feedback needs, if they haven't done any of this before, it's certainly going to be a bigger lift at the beginning or this first time out, to build this framework or to build this kind of research and feedback infrastructure. But once you have it, it's really just an effort of maintaining, and whether it's quarterly or annually, kind of going through and taking a step back and saying, all right, what's the feedback? What are we hearing? What's the data saying? And how do we need to tweak our strategy? And it really needs to be kind of more of this, fluid, ongoing process, and not something that you don't think about for another year or two, and then you have to kind of then go back and rebuild it all from scratch again. So
Yeah,
that's my parting thought.
I like the way you framed that up for people. One, it doesn't have to be scary. You can do little bits of it at a time with the tools
Yep.
that you have available to you. And two, once you do the big, daunting, big research project, from there, it's just a matter of tweaking and reassessing along the way as you go. And hopefully you don't have to invest as much time and effort like you did on the front end.
Yeah.